Hello, welcome to the reading room at the Summer Learning Academy, brought to you by Tau Rho Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I am Daphne Anderson-Hood, and I'm going to read to you Black Beauty. While I read Black Beauty to you, I want you to do these things. Think about the author's point of view. What do you think is the author's message? Make a real-life personal connection to the story. I want you to compare the ideas of the story to you and your mom. I also want you to contrast the ideas of the story. What is or what would be different between the story and your real-life experience? In addition, here are some assignments I want you to complete. I want you to complete a T-chart or a Venn diagram. I prefer the T-chart, but it's up to you. I want you to write a summary about the story, Black Beauty. Remember to write your summary using BME, beginning, middle, and end. Then I want you to write a reflection explaining your comparisons and your contrasts. Lastly, I want you to review your notes to see if you have a different or similar point of view than that of the author. Here's an example of a T-chart. In fact, this is an example of how I want you to write out your notes. If you want, I'd really like to know how they look. So if you want, you can send them to me via email, msaka2you@yahoo.com, which is located up at the top right-hand corner of the page. This is not mandatory. It is strictly voluntary. But if you'd like for me to take a look, go ahead and send them to me. Black Beauty. My early home, and the first place I can remember well, was a large, pleasant meadow with trees and a pond of clear water in it. I lived with my mother, whose name was Duchess. In the daytime, I ran by her side, and at night, I lay down close to her. There were some young horses that lived in the meadow too, but my mother said they were cart horses. "You are well bred," she said. "I want you to grow up to be gentle and not kick or bite." I never forgot my mother's advice, for she was a wise horse. Now you make a connection to you and your mother. How was she when she gave you advice? Time passed in the happy place, and I grew to be handsome. My coat was soft and glossy black. I had one white foot and a pretty white star on my forehead. Then, when I was 4 years old, my master said I was to be broken in. Breaking in meant that I had to learn to wear a saddle and a bridle, and to carry a man, woman, or child on my back. I was to be taught to have a carriage fixed behind me and always to obey my master's will, without the freedom of my life. My training was soon complete, and early that May I was bought by a Squire Gordon and taken to Birtwick Park. At the stables, I was put in a comfortable stall that was clean and airy. Next to me was a fat gray pony named Merrylegs, who thought himself very handsome indeed. Across the way was a chestnut mare looking over from her stall. Like me, she was about 15 hands high, but she seemed bad tempered. That's Ginger, said Merrylegs. People have been unkind to her, so she snaps and bites sometimes, even though our grooms, John and James, were very kind. Now, can you make a prediction? Can you make a connection? Are there times when you're in school and someone makes fun of you, but they don't know your background? And maybe you had a hard time with something and they don't know, but they still make fun of you? There's your real life connection. I soon settled into my new home. Squire Gordon was a good rider and named me Black Beauty because my coat was dark and shiny. As time went on, I was put in a carriage with Ginger. She told me about her early life and how she had been cruelly treated. I knew it was gentleness that Ginger needed, for I had heard a man say that a bad tempered master never made a good tempered horse. With time, Ginger grew much less cross. She and Merrylegs became my dearest friends, and we had many adventures at Birkwood Park. Has that happened to you, where someone has made fun of you, but then when they really got to know you, they became your friend? One stormy night, I was pulling a cart over a flooding river and felt something was wrong. Go on, Beauty, said my master, but I would not. Stop, shouted a man suddenly. The bridge is broken. Master said I saved him and that animals knew things their owners didn't. Another time, our master went to town for business, and I was stabled there for the night with Ginger. As John settled us down, I noticed a man with a pipe come in. I thought nothing of it until later when I saw a red light and a thick gray cloud across the stalls. Someone shouted, "Fire!" But John spoke gently to me and led me outside. I whined because I could not see Ginger, but at last James brought her out too. She said if I had not called her, she wouldn't have had the courage to move. Soon after that terrible night, James left and a new groom, Joe Green, arrived. He was kind but inexperienced. One night the mistress fell ill and I raced to the doctor's house. I was hot from galloping, so Joe didn't put my rug on and I caught a terrible chill. John looked after me and I soon became well again, but it was not the same for my mistress. Her health was poor, and we soon learned that she and the master were to move to a warmer climate. I was sold with Ginger to an earl, and Merrylegs was given to the vicar. After 3 happy years at Birtwick Hall, we said our sad goodbye to our old friend Merrylegs as Joe and John rode us to our new home at Ursula Park. I held my face close to John's when he left, as that was all I could do to say goodbye. Ursula was bigger than Birtwood Park, but not as pleasant. The lady of the house insisted that Ginger and I wear a bearing ring, which kept our heads high and was uncomfortable. Ginger kicked out in annoyance and never pulled a carriage again. As for me, worse was to come. I was cared for by a groom named Ruben Smith. He was a good man, but he was careless, and this was his downfall. One night when the master was away, he rode me home from town. There were sharp stones on the road, and I lost one shoe, but he forced me to gallop. Can you think about a time when you had to do something and you really had no choice as to whether it was pleasant or not? What do you think is going to happen? Make your prediction. I went at such speed, I stumbled and fell on my knees. I quickly got up, but Reuben had fallen off and was lying on the ground. He groaned, then lay still. He was dead. Everyone knew I was not the blame, but my knees were damaged and I needed a long rest. I was put into a paddock by myself and felt very lonely until one day Ginger arrived. I was so happy to see her and to have that time together. But it was not long after that I was taken away and sold, with only a sad whining of goodbye to my dear old friend. Has that ever happened to you, where you had to leave someone special or your best friend? How did you feel? In my time after Ursula, I became a job horse and was rented out to anyone that wished to hire me. There were many bad drivers, but some good ones too. Because I was patient and good natured, one such driver recommended me to a man named Mr. Berry, who became my new owner. My master knew little about horses, but he treated me well. I would have had an easy time of it had it not been for one groom who stole my feeding oats to sell, and another, Alfred Smirk, who did not clean my stable properly. My feet became so tender and sore that I fell lame. What do you think is going to happen now? Can you make another prediction? Mr. Berry discovered the truth and made sure I was fed and cared for. But he was so annoyed at being deceived by the two grooms, he decided not to keep a horse any longer. When my feet were better, I was sold again, this time to a horse cab driver named Jeremiah Barker. Jerry, as Jeremiah was known, was a good master, and I had never known such a happy family. Jerry's wife, Polly, his daughter, Dolly, and his son, Harry, petted and fussed over me. I was stabled with their old white horse, Captain, and we were well looked after. Do you think this is the last time that Black Beauty is going to be sold? Let's see. What a team Jerry and I made, trotting past traffic through the streets of London. The days were long, but I was happy in my work. Then, one winter, after nights spent waiting in the cold, Jerry fell ill. He was no longer able to work and sadly sent me to be sold. My life as a cab horse after that was very hard indeed. I was so overworked that I became exhausted and ended up at a horse fair. Thin and worn out, I had all but lost hope when I was bought by a kind man named Farmer Thoroughgood. Even though I was in poor condition, Farmer Thoroughgood knew I was well bred. He said that I had seen better days, but with rest and care, I would soon recover. This was true, for after a winter of good food and a comfortable stable, I was like my old self again. Have you ever been sick and had to be cared for and then you felt better? When the summer came, Farmer Thoroughgood said he had found a perfect home for me. I was carefully groomed until my coat shined again. Then I was taken to a pretty house about a mile down the road where three ladies lived. You think Black Beauty was excited? Miss Bloomfield, Miss Ellen, and Miss Lavinia were my new owners and liked me very much. A groom came to feed me and noticed the white star on my forehead and my one white foot. "Why, it's Black Beauty," he cried, for it was Joe Green. Joe was the best and kindest of grooms, and the ladies promised I would never be sold. I had nothing to fear, and at last all my troubles were over. Sometimes, however, I would wake at night and imagine I was still in the orchard at Birtwick Park, standing with my old friends under the apple tree. The end. So now we'll review the assignments again.
Were you following the bullet points? Now that we have read Black Beauty, you can complete your assignment. I hope you took good notes. Remember, email me if you'd like, and again, it's voluntary, not mandatory. And again, thank you for joining the reading room at the Summer Learning AKAdemy, brought to you by the Tall Rho Omega chapter of Alpha Kappa Alpha Sorority Incorporated. I'm Daphne Anderson-Hood, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson.